teams with the distinction. And the distinction for us is, and I'll talk a little bit about the survey and why we've done that. 2 seconds on it here. PBS has a culture of teaming. We team well. This is how we solve business problems. It's a good thing. We have an abysmal record on capturing any of the knowledge that's gone into or out of teams. So we find ourselves making teams over and over again to solve a one-off business problem from a team that may have been formed and solved that business problem 6 months ago. So like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about that. Communities of practice are long-term, larger entities. Teams are specific to projects, specific to business processes, even if they do go on long-term. Okay. So just a little recap on that, where we're providing our initial focuses, again, on communities of practice. For us, as a real estate organization, this probably makes sense. Our initial focus is on the realty community, and I'll talk in a few more slides about why realty, how realty, that kind of thing. Again, and actually, this addresses the question, virtual team support. This gives us a collaborative environment across the entire organization, again, to try and help us solve we keep making teams. Yeah, we're good at it, but we keep making teams where we don't necessarily need to do if we would capture some of that knowledge that comes out of those teams. And then best practices. Now, one of our initial best practices focuses has been on, and I think it was mentioned somewhere, on our knowledge management's support of the public buildings' response to the disasters that we've had, the hurricanes that we've had. We were actually, it's a really cool thing. I've got a cool couple of slides on it. We were actually, knowledge management was actually asked to the table to provide some support for PBS to capture its lessons learned from the disaster recovery efforts in the 2 of our regions that have handled disaster. So I'll talk more about that. But let me talk in specific right now about our strategic objectives for COP, because that is how we are strategically implementing knowledge management at a national level in the public building service through communities of practice. You can read the slide, but the bottom line I'd like you to get from this is, for us, yes, we are strategically putting up communities of practice. This does not preclude our regions, and we have 11 of them, by the way, all of them their own little fiefdom. This does not preclude them doing communities, like Dick was saying, community type work, that tier 1 type work. But if you're going to do it at a national level, it becomes a strategic community of practice, and that's where we come in at the national level to provide that support. Our game plan is start small, start at a pilot, expand functionality when you've achieved success at the pilot level that you're on. We're very, very much in the public building service, and I suspect this is true for a lot of organizations. Prove your worth on a small scale before you take it to a large scale. Why realty? Well, I mean, like I said, to a certain extent, we're a real estate organization. It probably makes sense. But there are many disciplines in the public building service, and one of the reasons, and I would say this is kind of a lesson learned for anyone starting a new knowledge management program who's decided to focus on communities of practice. There were several good reasons to pick realty, just beyond the fact that we are a real estate organization. This really is the group, this is the skill set that is closest to our customer. Most of our customers are actually in leased space. We do very, very few anymore, especially building of buildings. And those buildings that we do build are courthouses. They are federal courthouses by and large. So the realty community, which focuses a lot on the leasing aspect, really is who touches our customer the most and the closest. This was the first group to go through a major HR human capital initiative that we had on a nationwide scale for the public building service to really assess what are the skills that you need to be an effective whatever it is that you are. The first group to be, as we call it, we've now made it a verb, HCAM, was the realty community. This was the community that had its skills in a very formal process assessed and there's work that's going on from that. And kind of out of that HCAM work this is also the first group that now is following a playbook. We're actually codifying the leasing practices. One of the things that our customers complain vociferously about, and to a lesser degree now, but still kind of complain about, is, I said we have 11 regions in the public building service. Well, to a certain extent, if you were a national level customer, you got touched 11 different ways, and you didn't like it. I mean, you wouldn't like it if you went out to Walmart and it was a completely different experience every time you did. Well, that's what or maybe you would. I don't go to Walmart. But that's what our customers were saying was one of the reasons why they were going to the extreme lengths that they were to seek this delegated authority was, you treat me different when I'm in Atlanta than when I am in San Francisco. So the Realty Group, again, being the closest to the customer, because most of our customers are in leased space, codified their, in a very major organized way, codified their processes, and we call it our transaction management playbook. All of our business processes will ultimately have this done to them, but it's really quite a major step for us. We have new customer-centric business processes, in part as a result from having actually codified them for a change. The biggest reason for us to go with Realty really was less that they were closest to the customer and all that kind of stuff, as much as this really was an existing community. These folks already were a community, and they just didn't call themselves that. One of the things that kind of keep in mind is all of our processes, because we are a government agency, all of our processes are very transparent. There are public laws that we have to follow, so it's all very transparent. So our Realty folks had been doing this business for a long time under the same rules and regulations, ultimately, but just touching our customers in different ways. So we were trying to take care of that. But it was a strong existing content base that was already out there, lots of standard forms, lots of web content that's already out there. But like I said, I think first and foremost, there were strong personal networks already established within the Realty community. And if you are my advice would be, if you are in the position of having to pick a group that you first establish your community with, it needs to be something like our Realty folks, that they work together, they understand their processes are relatively transparent, yes, they need to be tweaked, but that they already have that strong personal network established. I think it's going to put us in real good stead that this is the group, as opposed to our design and construction group, for instance, or historic preservation.